You're listening to the BBM Global Network with 25 years in broadcast audio and video production. Our passionate team creates content and marketing for the world of Internet Talk Radio. If you've got a passion, come join us at bbmglobalnetwork.com. The BBM Global Network. Your voice is now heard.
Welcome to Happiness Ninja Down Under with your host, Jamie Rose. Jamie will educate and empower people, organizations, and communities to help us all make better health and well-being choices. She will also engage you with expert influencers from around the world. So now, please welcome the host of Happiness Ninja Down Under, Jamie Rose.
Welcome to Happiness Ninja Down Under. I'm Gemma Rose, the host of this series, and you're tuned into Bold Brave TV. Coming to you live from New York City. I have another fabulous guest with me today. This week, I have Gemma Sandwell. She's coming all the way from the UK. She is a positive psychology practitioner, just like myself. We did the same qualification. We are both mindfulness teachers, and she has done a fabulous TEDx speech. Welcome, Gemma. That's not all you do, but that's all I've got introduced for you for now. Thanks so much for joining me. I know it's quite late there.
Yeah, it is 11 p.m. here, but I'm still wide awake. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. I hope your Nana nap made it all the more easier to stay up for us today.
Yeah, I'm normally an early bedtime person, so yeah, but I'm surprisingly awake because I'm excited. I think that's probably why.
I'm so glad. It's been years since we've actually spoken face to face outside of like social media. I was thinking back about we've had really similar journeys, haven't we?
Yeah, we have, like on opposite sides of the world, living very similar journeys. Yeah.
It's been quite interesting and nice to have somebody, that I can see a lot of myself in. And I mean, I hope that we haven't got to speak a lot, and it's mostly been social media, but I hope that, it does the same as it does for me, and it helps, support yourself in the background.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, we'll get stuck into a bit of your story. You've taken things a little bit step further. You've finished your psychology degree. You've done about 14 years study in psychology, neuroscience, neuroplasticity, mindfulness meditation. When did you get to do your TEDx talk? That was a couple of years ago now, I think.
Yeah, it was 2019. I was really lucky. I got in just before the pandemic hit. So yeah, one of my clients is trying to do one at the moment, and it's just not happening. So yeah, I got in at the right time.
Do you want to take us a little bit down your journey through how you overcame? You had a lot of stress, a lot of burnout. We're going to be talking about things like highly sensitive people today, which you've discovered that you are. Which has been actually interesting for my journey, looking at that wording that you used. I started to look into that and realized I might be the same as well. So let's start off with how, a little bit about how you ended up stuck, burnt out, stressing a lot, not very happy, and how you've turned that around to start your own successful business in positive psychology and coaching.
Yeah, so it really has been a journey. So my journey started with this quiet, shy girl who didn't speak up, who didn't speak her mind. Actually, was rewarded for not speaking her mind. I actually had this revelation the other day when I was talking to a client about being their authentic self, that I was given a £1 coin by an old lady once in a cafe because I was such a quiet child. So I kind of like grew up with this, this kind of conditioning of being this shy, quiet child. My mum sort of suffered with a lot of anxiety, and I think I sort of picked up on that, and that made me quite hypervigilant as a child as well. And just as long as I knew, really, I would get really, really anxious. I didn't know that it was anxiety as such. I just thought that was normal, and that everyone felt like, physically ill and physically sick. And I remember doing a school play, and I only had to say like 10 lines, but I was like physically shaking and sick. And I said, oh, everyone gets nervous, don't they? And it was like, when I started to talk to people about it, it was like, no, like not to that level. Like, getting nervous is normal, but this was like so much more. So I then ended up so I was studying with the Open University, so I did my degree part-time, which took me 7 years, which was really long journey.
Hey, I'm on 12 years, so you did it a lot faster than me.
Well, you're doing well, you're doing really well. Ended up in the corporate world. I thought, I'll go out there and I'll get a job and I'll, get a house and all those things that you think is like the next thing to do. And I was like, I had extreme social anxiety. I couldn't speak up in a meeting with 5 or 6 people. I would sweat, I would shake, I would blush, it was very severe, and it really held me back. But what kind of I started to see like some glimmer of hope, and I'm going to talk about it. And I know this is like what we love, like talking about positive psychology. So that was kind of one glimmer of hope when which I'll come on to. But I remember I had someone come in and they were training me on the systems in my first week, and I looked at them, these trainers, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I want to train, I want to teach. And I started to talk to them about their job and what they did, and they were like, yeah, sometimes we're in a room with like 50 people, and a lot of them are like heads of directors. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, I really, really want to do what they do. And I could see that kind of spark in me of like, I need to teach, I need to coach, like this is my purpose. But I'm never going to get through that anxiety to be able to do that. And I was also bullied as well as a child. On several occasions, I was bullied for how I looked. I was bullied for how I behaved. I moved schools when I was 10, and that had a huge impact on me. And my parents moved me to like what was perceived as like a better school. And then I was bullied, and it was almost like, yeah, you don't deserve this, you don't deserve this new lifestyle. And the bullying really set me back. And it wasn't until so I'm going to talk a bit about shadow work today later in the conversation, but it wasn't until like I really looked at what was holding me back, and it was this anxiety, but also this bullying that I had at 10 years old. So really, for a lot of like my life and a lot of my corporate career, I didn't speak up. I became an epic people pleaser, and that's what led me to burnout, because I became the yes woman. So in corporate, can you just do this? Can you just travel to London and do this? Can you can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? And I was spending a lot of my working life traveling to and from London. And I was starting to really struggle, and I would, I'd have to stay away a lot as well. And because I'm so highly sensitive, and so hypervigilant, and that's how the anxiety was kind of playing out for me. It was like a hypervigilance. I couldn't sleep in hotels. So I was going to London, I was then not sleeping, I was then getting like panicky and anxious about the meetings, and the whole thing was just crazy. So I turned my life around by studying positive psychology and mindfulness and now energy work, and that led me up to doing a TEDx. So I went from not being able to speak to a room full of 5 people to being on stage doing a TEDx. So it's been a real journey.
Oh, you've come an absolute fabulous length of time, length of space in your journey. We do have to cut to the break, and we'll come back and we'll continue on with it. But you've just touched on a couple of things that I didn't know about you. and our journey is even more similar than what I had realized. So that's
I can see
interesting.
the recognition in your face.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I was bullied too. There's so many things. So we'll cut to the break, guys, and then we'll be back to finish the rest of Gemma's story. Stay tuned, and we will be talking about a lot about the energy work and the highly sensitive people and shadow work. So that will be really, really interesting. So come back and listen to that.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to Happiness Ninja Down Under. I'm Gemma Rose, and this is Bold Brave TV. I have Gemma Sandwell from the UK with me. She is a positive psychology practitioner, a energy coach, a mindfulness meditation facilitator, amongst many, many other things. We were just before the break, Gemma was telling the audience about how she went from not being able to speak publicly at all through severe anxiety to how she managed to speak and do a TEDx talk. Gemma, did you want to continue on with that for us?
Yeah, so it's been it's been a real journey, and up until really, I would say up until 2014, I had this like really severe anxiety. And then everything shifted for me when I studied positive psychology. So this is, something we've both studied. And, this is actually how I met you, Jamie, is through positive psychology, which is just amazing. And a friend of mine, so I've got a friend who I think you've had on as a guest, Sue Langley, and she used to live in the UK years ago, and I've kind of followed her journey to moving to Australia and setting up her business, and she's always been like a real role model of mine. She's actually like distantly related to me as well, which we actually didn't find out later on. Very strange. And so we were just kind of chatting, and I was asking her questions and things, and then in about 2013 she said, you need to come and learn positive psychology. Like, this is up and coming. It's getting really, really big in Australia. It is just completely blowing everything out of the water. You need to come and learn it. And I was like, wow, okay. So I started to research and saw that, Martin Seligman and his research and how it was all kind of coming about. And I was like, okay, wow, I need to be part of this. Then found out she was coming to London to teach the program. So of course it was a no-brainer that I went on it. And for me, like, the pivotal moment was the first day. So after, spending like my corporate career in the hustle bustle of London, finding it really stressful. You know, I had like that anticipation of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to study in London, but I'm going to study this amazing course. Like, what's that going to be like? And I remember on day one of the program, feeling like the calmest I've ever felt ever. Yeah, I was in central London in the middle of the chaos, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this has to be some kind of magic, because I've never felt this calm before. And, you know, I'm a country girl at heart, and I'm in the middle of the city and I feel really calm. And that night I got back to my hotel and I was just in floods of tears. And I can remember calling my mum and saying, it's life changing already. It's only been a day. And it just felt like, whoa, okay, hang on. And it was that moment for me of like, you can change your life. And that's what my TEDx was about. That's why I had to get that message out there, because it was like, you can change your life. Like all these things that you're told are just normal, and you go to the doctors and you take a pill, and you know,
there's nothing you can do.
You can change it. Yeah. And I had actually been at the doctors and been given a pill for my anxiety. And you know, what I was told was, oh, it's okay, we'll give you some pills and they'll reduce your symptoms so you can just get on with your life. And I can remember sat in the car looking at the prescription thinking, this doesn't feel right. Like, why would I want to block my emotions? That doesn't feel right. And in that split second moment, I ripped the prescription up. And then learning about positive psychology and the energy work and everything, it's like, oh, that was such the right decision. Like, you know, because it was just that I was overwhelmed. It was just that I wasn't allowing those kind of emotions to pass through me and be with them. You know, I was just trying to block them out. So that started to shift everything for me, like from that moment forward. And I studied positive psychology. I got deep into mindfulness. I went on mindfulness retreats, and slowly I started to overcome that anxiety. And then I was given a challenge. So my boss at the time in my corporate job said to me, it's all very well you talk about this positive psychology stuff all the time, because I was constantly like trying to get them to use it, because one of the things I found is that like the most and this was something that we'd looked at in corporate as well, the most high performing organizations in the world, you know, the world leaders out there, what underpinned them was positive psychology, and like nobody was talking about it. So my boss, who was like, thought he was being really challenging, said to me, right, prove it, go prove it.
You're like, well, okay. Here's a list.
Yeah. So I went and replicated Sean Aker's research on I managed to get 186 volunteers from across the organisation where I was, and I got them to carry out the 5 activities that Sean recommends every day. So the journaling, acts of kindness, gratitude, exercise, and the meditation.
I remember when you were doing that. Yeah, I just was like, okay, let's go. So yeah, and I even put it through like statistical program as well. I'm not a statistics person, but I thought, you know, I need to really do this to prove like it's significant. And it did. It came up with a significant result. And overall, like the happiness and the productivity of the group increased by 15.3%. So I used a range of subjective wellbeing scales to measure. And then that was the research that I then used in my TEDx. So I was able to sort of like take that learning and understanding that I'd applied to myself, and it'd become like such a habit and routine of mine, and then be able to do research on it, but also start to impact people, and then start to be able to say like this works because I've proved it. And I actually had a celebrity kind of moment. You know how people have their celebrities, but mine is Sean Aker. Like, he's one of my favorite research. and I tweeted him. And I sent him a message as well to ask if I could use his research in my TEDx and say that I'd replicated it. And he came back to me and he said, I have no problem with you replicating my research and sharing it. I just want to help as many people as possible. And I was like, wow, this man is amazing. Like, so yeah, he just like gave me the go ahead, talk about it in your TEDx. Like, I just want it to be shared, which was incredible. So really enjoyed that. And how have you found that the TEDx shifted things for you more, you know, in a positive manner? Did it like help with not only your own inner self-confidence, but also like with your business as well?
Yeah, so it definitely, like for me, like to be able to say that I'd done it and it was streamed to so many people live on the day as well, and I was asked a really uncomfortable question that I couldn't answer about education, because it was like a teacher's sort of, mainly like a teacher's educational sort of TEDx. So yeah, like really like boosted my confidence, and it was like, right, if you can do a TEDx, you can do anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, it really helped, and sharing that message as well was just really helpful. It just really impacted all those people.
Absolutely fabulous story. We do have to cut to the break, but when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about anxiety, because I think that there's a lot of people out there suffering from anxiousness that don't necessarily know it or know how to overcome it, especially during these crazy times that we're going through right now. So we'll cut to the break, and then we'll come back and we'll dig a little bit deeper into anxiety and how we both overcame it, and we can share a few tips and treasures with the audience on that. So stay tuned, guys.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like, it was almost instant. Like, I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. You know, it feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to Happiness Ninja Down Under. I'm Jamie Rose, and this is Bold Brave TV. I have the amazing Gemma Sandwell. She is like the me version in the UK. Welcome back, Gemma. We were just talking about your TEDx talk and how you have gone from being bullied, extremely shy, suffered from a lot of anxiety, and then you shifted all that, just like myself, through positive psychology, energy work, mindfulness, and various other similar modalities. Before the break, you were talking about your TEDx talk, and I just wanted to sort of delve a little bit deeper into, so we were touching on how anxiety, often people don't know they're anxious to start with, and then once they recognize that what anxiety is, unlike what mainstream society makes us think, that we just take a pill and that's all we can do, we've discovered through positive psychology, through energy, through mindfulness and that kind of stuff, that we can shift this. How did you start going about that, and just take us a little bit on that journey? I know that nutrition is involved as well, so let's start that conversation.
Yeah, so I think it was initially that moment of like, I've got a choice. I can change my life. I can change my brain pathways and my brain patterns, and like knowing the neuroscience behind that and the fact that these small habits could really change things. So I was really like heavily kind of working on my mindset and my habits and my brain patterns. And then part of that kind of came naturally, was to kind of look at all areas of my life and kind of go, okay, where else can I have those healthy habits? And it was a friend that said to me about do I take B vitamins and magnesium? And I was like, no, like I just take like a multivitamin, and some days I don't really take anything, like I eat fruit and veg, like surely that's okay. But I started taking magnesium and B vitamins as well, and just having like a more plant-based diet, and that made a huge difference as well. Cutting out sugar and cutting down alcohol, and all of those things really helped as well. So it was kind of that combination of like building those happiness habits, building those kind of things that I knew were going to help my brain, but also eating in a way that was going to help my brain as well. And then the energy piece. So this was like the mind-blowing piece. And obviously food is energy, and positive psychology is about energy, because we are effectively giving ourselves more energy and giving our brain more energy. But there's
shifting into positive energy.
Yeah. Which, as we know that that starts to fuel our like the prefrontal cortex and all of the like great parts of our brain that we need to use. So it's not just about being happier, is it? It's about so much more. It's about being better versions of ourselves, being more more productive, creative organizations as well. It really does. Sean found a link between sales, didn't he? And high performing companies with positive emotions have more sales. But yeah, so there's an energy piece around food, nutrition, mindset, healthy habits, but there was another layer of that for me. So I identify as more of an introverted side of the scale. I know that can be quite boxy, but life didn't make sense to me even as an introvert, because it was like I'd go some places and I'd feel okay. I'd go some places and I'd feel really drained and anxious. I'd see certain people and I'd feel okay. I'd see other people and I'd feel drained and anxious. And I was like, there's so much more to it than this. And what I started to realize, and then, in later years studying energy work and human design, was that I was picking up a lot of energy from everyone else. And actually, and I can quite confidently say this statement, I'm pretty convinced 99% of my anxiety wasn't actually even mine. And it was
picking
just
up on other people's anxiety.
Yeah.
I found, yeah,
you found similar.
I found similar. Yeah, it's crazy.
So yeah, spending all
keep
that
going.
time in London and being surrounded by all these people who were like rushing around, I'd get off the train, I'd come from my countryside place to London. I'd walk off the train, it would just be like, and it would hit me, and I'd always thought, oh, why am I, and I'd constantly question in my mind, like, why am I anxious again? What is it this time? What about this meeting? Why is it making me anxious? And actually it wasn't any of that. It was just the fact that I was picking up stuff from everyone else. And, the 1% I did look at, and, I went and deeply sort of delved into, my childhood and what was making me anxious. But actually, a lot of the time it wasn't even mine. So this is where I started to kind of research about energy and about, the quantum field and quantum physics. And how London is actually, filled with like all of this energy. And, I was going through and it was, it's coming in, I was absorbing it. And for me, like, I was going to say, have you heard of it? I'm pretty convinced that you would have done the PO cage experiment with the robot and the chick.
Joe
Dispenza talks.
I know that. I'm not sure. You might need to give me more information on that.
So so basically they found, I think that's how you say his name, PO cage, that when a baby chick sends out an intention when it's born,
the robot chicken.
It can it actually has an effect on an inanimate object. So a robot that does random directions, when you put a baby chick next to it, the consciousness of the chick affects the robot. So it's evidence. This for me was like mind evidence.
I do remember that. Yeah, that was crazy, because that's not even that's a man-made robot, and the energy is still being affected by the chick.
Yeah. So that for me was a moment of like, wow, okay, there's more to this. This is about energy. This is the missing piece for me, like understanding the energy and being able to clear the energy out, has been the key to success.
Yeah, energy is it's like up and coming, and people are just not understanding and undervaluing it at this point in time. But it is a rising star. We do have to cut to the break, so I can't go into that just yet. But when we come back, we will continue that conversation, and I'll share a little bit of my journey with in line with yours with the overcoming of the anxiety, because I think that's really important for the audience to understand. And then we'll shift into the energy, the more into that. So we'll stay tuned, guys, and we'll come back.
The opiate epidemic has reached crisis levels, and with so many families affected by addiction, opiate-related drug overdoses, and death, the time is now to have a real constructive conversation about addiction that could lead to better prevention, treatment, and recovery. Alan Charles, author and keynote speaker on drug abuse and prevention, presents The Alan Charles Show. Alan brings a message of hope, sharing his unbelievable story of surviving a 24-year addiction to cocaine and highlights from his memoir, Walking Out the Other Side, an addict's journey from loneliness to life. His raw honesty and courageous heart breaks the stigma of addiction and offers a unique perspective into the mind of an addict. Join Alan each week as he brings his listeners to a true understanding of the grip of addiction. It is only with this understanding that we can begin to heal. The Alan Charles Show, Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network. Have you ever felt like no one is listening, or you're not getting the honest attention you deserve? Do you even know the kind of attention you want or need? You are not alone. Alice Aspen March is here to help. Thanks to Alice, through her epiphany and research over the word attention, there are solutions to the attention dilemma. Worldwide audiences have been enthralled and engaged for over 40 years with her visionary and pioneering observations. The kind of attention we get and give is vital to improving our lives and society. Alice and her weekly guests review game-changing insights for transforming and improving our understanding of attention, providing techniques for creating healthier and empowering behavior. Get a new perspective on a mainstream word. Tune into Why Our Attention Matters for fresh and thought-provoking conversations every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on boldbravemedia.com and the TuneIn Radio app.
Welcome back to Happiness Ninja Down Under. I'm Gemma Rose, and you tuned into Bold Brave Media, coming to you live from New York City. I have the fabulous Gemma Sandwell here with me, coming all the way from the UK. She is also a positive psychology practitioner, a mindfulness facilitator, an energy worker, a coach in general, amongst many, many other things. Welcome again. Thanks for joining me, Gemma. I know it's late there. Before the break, we were discussing energy work and how you overcame your anxiety. I just wanted to quickly, before we go back to you and you can continue, I just wanted to back up what you were saying about the importance of like nutrition and supplementation when it comes to nutrition. I had a similar sort of journey with it sounds like you've been under with that as well, and it was vitamin B, and in particular B12, that shifted a lot of things for me, as well as vitamin E. I don't know if did you find the same with vitamin E as well? Like, what are your thoughts around that? Because there are specific supplements that are known to decrease anxiety and bring us back into equilibrium.
For me, B6 was the big one, actually. When I started to take B vitamins, I could take a B complex now, and yeah, when I changed brands and I didn't realize it didn't have the B6, like that's when I really, like, the emotions would really start to come in. And magnesium, that's been a huge one for me, because I think that's helped with sleep as well, which has then had a knock-on effect on me feeling generally overall better. So yeah, definitely with you on the B. I haven't tried vitamin E actually, like that's not something I've tried, but yeah, B vitamins for certain, and magnesium have been huge.
Interesting. Yeah, I was surprised that magnesium was not a huge factor for me. I think from my understanding, with these kind of conversations with people like yourself, that, there's various different nutrients that have a particular power in them when it comes to reducing things like anxiety and depression. But it does vary person to person. And from my understanding of that, it's, our bodies are all functioning slightly differently, similar, but slightly differently. So we all have like nutrient depletions in different vitamins that we're not necessarily aware of, and that aren't necessarily going to even come up on a doctor's test as abnormal or out of a normal range. But this is a very underutilized tool to really, really shift anxiety and depression. I just wanted to quickly say, you say that you now take a B complex. I found similar. The longer I've been on these supplements for, like heavily and regular, when I do experiment with stopping them, I've noticed that, so at one stage, let's say around 2 years ago, I could only stop a vitamin B12 supplement for about a month before my anxiety would return. I've barely been taking B12 supplements for 6 months now, and I know that it's had a small shift, and I'm now looking back into taking them again to experiment, because it's been 6 months, but that's a significant shift. That's an extra 5 months. So I just wanted to just touch on that, because I think people like you and me who are willing to talk about this, that's where people start to understand and go, actually, you know what? Maybe I might experiment with myself and teach myself treat myself as a bit of a science experiment, and try things that I've never tried. Cut out foods you've never cut out. Try new foods that you've never tried, and introduce supplementation. So that's a very good key for people. Now I just wanted to shift gears into the highly sensitive person, and how did that all come about for you? How did you discover that?
So it was actually, I was on my way to a retreat, and I don't know how I stumbled across it. I genuinely can't think how it even happened. But I stumbled across Elaine Aron's book, The Highly Sensitive Person, and I started to read the first few pages, which was all about how, and I won't give away the story, but it was basically all about how something had happened to Elaine as a child, that was talked about her hypervigilance. And I was like, oh my God, I've had this same experience that Elaine has had. So when I was, and it's a long story, so I won't go into it in detail, but basically when I was 8 years old, there was a carbon monoxide leak in a caravan where I was staying with my family, and I knew something was wrong, and I screamed for 2 hours until my parents went and got help, and found out that there was this leak, but nobody, you can't smell nobody knew, but I knew something was wrong. And reading Elaine's story, I was like, oh wow, like this is me. So I read on and I was like, this is me. So Elaine's really kind of the first researcher in this area to really explore it and bring it out into focus. And what it basically means is that, like, in some area of our lives, it could have been even when we're in the womb, or as a child, we've developed like this hypervigilance. So some situation in our lives, perhaps we've been around a lot of anxiety, or we may have had, some kind of trauma that's made us need to be more high alert and more aware, and it actually develops more synapses in the brain. So we've got more synapses to pick things up, but it can be an amazing gift as well. And this is kind of what I work with clients on, is that we can like really feel emotions, and we can feel you listen to a piece of music and it makes you cry, and it can be an incredible intuitive skill. So I saved my family when I was 8, and as an adult I kind of like lost sight of that. And then I had to kind of connect back with that part of myself. But yeah, understanding that HSP has just been incredible. But also knowing that positive psychology can help with it as well, and help to, rewire some of those brain pathways too.
Yeah, and I think that that term, it's not a scientific term, but it's a very, very powerful when you can recognize. Like, I think, because I've realized that I'm the same, and I think that a lot of people are, and they're told that, oh, you're too sensitive. It's like a negative thing. So then to find out that being a highly sensitive person is actually a gift is quite the opposite. We have to cut to another break. It goes so quickly, but we'll come back and we'll continue talking with that. So stay tuned, guys.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to Happiness Ninja Down Under. I am Jamie Rose, and you are tuned into Bold Brave TV. Before the break, the amazing Gemma Sandwell was just taking us through the terminology of highly sensitive person. Gemma, now I wanted to keep going with that topic for a bit longer, but you said a word that I'm not sure that all of the audience will be familiar with. Did you just want to explain what hypervigilance is first before we continue on with the highly sensitive person topic?
Yeah, so not an official definition, but more of, how I've experienced this is it's, our brains naturally want to protect us from harm. So we've got this, this fight or flight mechanism that's in there. So when we experience danger, we fight, we flight, or we freeze. I'm definitely a flighter. The amount of times in my corporate career where I've walked into a meeting and want to just run straight out again.
I'm the opposite. I'm a fighter.
Are you?
Yeah, I get
it. Together, one would run, one would fight.
Yeah.
Good balance.
Yeah.
What it is that through this conditioning that's happened to us, or through being exposed to needing to be hypervigilant or some trauma, it basically means that our fight or flight mechanism, this is my understanding, my own feeling of this, is that your fight or flight mechanism is more likely to react. So because we've effectively got more, because we've developed more synaptic connections in the brain for looking out for danger, being aware of our environment, which is also actually incredible intuition, because we're going to be spotting things because we've got those additional receptors. We're going to be spotting beauty while we're out in nature. We're going to be spotting when I'm talking to a coaching client and they're saying words to me, but I can see in their body language that something's not quite right, or sometimes it's just a feeling. It's just a feeling that something's not quite right. That can be an incredible gift, but that is hypervigilance. It is that fight or flight mechanism in its real extreme. And I know for me, like, I'm a lot better now, but the slightest thing, I couldn't watch a horror movie because the slightest thing that would just make a normal person like jump, for me that would make me jump, and then I'd be hypervigilant all night, and I wouldn't be able to sleep. Yeah, so it's just that kind of like more extreme and more likely for that fight or flight mechanism to turn on.
So did you discover this term highly sensitive person before you discovered energy work, or did you discover energy work first?
No, I discovered highly sensitive first, and then that's how I started to become aware that there was actually like a neuroscientific basis behind like absorbing others' energy because of having these sensory receptors.
Being an empath, basically.
Yeah, and then the more that I had this then opened up conversations. So I started to, because everything for me is an experiment, I then started to interview other people that thought they were HSP and understand their perspectives. And I realized there was kind of this common thread of spirituality around it. And that actually, like, a lot of what people were talking about was this kind of energy work piece. And I realized that that I actually and it was one day a friend of mine, she had a headache, and I just felt drawn to put my hands on her and like just to touch her head, and she was like, wow, like, I can feel your energy, you just, like, my headache is gone. And I was like, okay, I think there's something in this, like, this is more than just woo, like, I think there's something in this connection between being highly sensitive and feeling this energy, feeling others' energy, and being able to kind of clear it and shift it, like both in myself and in and in others, and kind of move this energy as well. So that's what then led me into the energy piece.
I just want to, you've made me think of a little story. It was only yesterday, actually, I was watching this video I came across, and it really highlights an example of what you're talking about. So there was a mother who gave birth to two babies, and one was strong and one was very weak. And basically they thought that the weak baby was going to pass on. And one nurse decided to go against protocol, and she snuck in, and so they had separated these babies as soon as they were born. And she was like, I need to put these babies together. So she snuck in and she put the strong one in with the weak one, and instantly the vitals changed on this weak baby. It was like phenomenal. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, like, that is how powerful. That impacted me hugely. I was like meditating while I was listening to that, and I could feel like this surge of energy within myself. I just knew to my core. It was like, oh, if only we knew how to utilize power, to the full extent that we have the ability to, we could really make some amazing changes and miracles in this world.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. So how has energy and understanding energy shifted things even more? Because positive psychology is very powerful, but energy work I think is a missing key for a lot of people.
It's a huge missing puzzle piece. And for me, like, a lot of it was like really basic. And I learned this on a mindfulness retreat where I was really unwell, and it was a silent retreat. So I couldn't turn to the person next to me and say, I'm unwell, I'm not going to come to meditation this morning, or I'm unwell, so I'm not going to eat today. Like, I had no justification because it was a silent retreat. And so all I had to do was listen to my body. It was like, okay, we're not going to eat at mealtime. We're going to miss meditation today because we're really tired and we need to go sleep, because I was so poorly. And it was like, oh my goodness, it's so simple. All I need to do is listen to my body. and I've not been listening to it for so many years, which is why I've like been so much in this state of anxiety and hypervigilance. So this is where things started to shift for me, and this is how I did my TEDx. This is how I got my energy really good for TEDx, was like even down to like on the day we talk about nutrition, very grateful that TEDx put on food, but at lunchtime it was bread and sandwiches and things. I went and got myself a proper lunch. I meditated in the car park. I didn't go to the networking meal because I knew I needed to recharge afterwards. So yeah, just simple things like listening to your body make a big difference.
Listening to your body is huge, and I think that a lot of people don't understand actually how to do that. We have a break coming up, and we're into the last segment. It's a short one, but this I think leads nicely into understanding ourselves and the parts of ourselves that we might not necessarily want to look at. It's sometimes known as shadow work. So we'll cut to the break. And then when we come back, you've done a little work on shadow work, and I've started to do some work on shadow work recently as well. So I think the audience will find that very beneficial. So we'll come back in a moment, guys, and we'll touch on that.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to Happiness Ninja Down Under. I am Gemma Rose, and this is Bold Brave TV. And we are at our last segment, so we'll cut straight to Gemma because I want to maximize what we're going to talk about next. We want to delve into shadow work and how understanding energy work uncovers parts of ourselves that we don't necessarily want to face. And that's called shadow work. So Gemma, would you like to tell us about how you got into shadow work and how that shifted things for you even more?
Yeah, so this journey for me really started with mindfulness, because what I was trying to do is like push the anxiety away. And I was kind of, I was doing the positive psychology was really helping, but I was still kind of pushing this part of myself away. And the mindfulness really helped me to kind of make friends with it. And so I'd start to kind of have these conversations with myself like a crazy person on the train to London going, hey, anxiety, are you going to come with me today? What should we do? Shall we have a cup of tea? Like, what would make you feel really good? And that really helped me, like welcoming it in. I almost imagined like I had this like ball of anxiety in my bag with me and I'd be like, hey, come on. And then it was... Then I was like really, really triggered one time in my work in London, and a friend said to me, you need to do, there's this amazing course that you need to do. And this lady's now my mentor. Her name's Michelle Elizabeth. And she she does a course around shadow work and actually looking at your triggers and what they mean. So I started to like explore this anxiety and go, okay, rather than saying I don't want you, go away anxiety, what if I like welcomed it in more? And what if I explored like why it was there, why I might be benefiting from it being there? Because of course, and this is how my coaching has shifted as well. So, you know, I say to coaching clients, okay, so you've got this thing going on, and they'll say, yeah, but I don't want that to happen. And what I used to say was like, okay, great, so what are we going to do about it? But now I'm like, no, you're still desiring that on some level. Like, why are you attracting this into your life? So if we don't understand shadow work, what we have to be really careful is, because these things, so this all comes from the research of Carl Jung, and it's basically a part of ourselves that we don't accept. So in childhood, you know, that part of me that spoke my truth had been so far pushed down, and that's not acceptable. And that part of me was still simmering away in the background, in the shadow side. We've got both the shadow side and our conscious side operating. And if we're not looking at what's in our unconscious and not looking in the shadows, that's going into our energy field, that's going into our thoughts, even subconsciously. So that's sending out. So for people that, you know, want to manifest things, that's sending out into the quantum field all of these shadows. And, you know, we're not then acknowledging that, and we're not then able to clear it. So once we look at it, we can then clear it, we can work on it and go, okay, that was from when I was 3 and this happened. I now accept and acknowledge that part of myself. And then we become more whole and we balance. And that's, you know, that's how we move forward. That's a real whistle stop tour of shadow work. And we could go deep into this, but in a nutshell.
Yeah, we don't have time to go into it any further. But essentially, rather than avoiding the things that we don't like about ourselves, the message is to dig deeper and to learn to understand it and face it. And then its power, it loses its power and its hold over you, and you are able to make significant changes. We have run out of time, I'm afraid, as always. Thank you very much for staying up until midnight for this interview. I know that was a stretch for you. I wish that we could get deeper and deeper into things, but we just can't. But I hope that this interview has shed some really good gems for people who might be, you know, suffering unnecessarily from anxiety and depression and other things similar, who don't think that there is any choices out there for them. There is, and it is stay away from the traditional doctors. So we'll be back next week. Thanks again, Gemma, and we'll see you next week. Thank you. Stay tuned, guys. See you next week. Bye.
This has been Happiness Ninja Down Under with your host, Jamie Rose. Tune in each week and join the conversation as Jamie highlights the true power of the human mind to create a thriving world. Right here on Jamie Rose's Happiness Ninja Down Under.
You've been listening to the BBM Global Network. The ideas, views, and opinions of this broadcast are those of the participants of the program and are not necessarily the ideas, views, and opinions of the BBM Global Network Company.